Hello, hello, kitty cats. Welcome back to another episode of Tails and Tassels, the show where you learn about the lives of burlesque and nightlife performers, their craft, their cats, and how the two worlds intertwine. I'm your host, Gemma Smith, and by day, I work in animal welfare, and by night, I host the Catbaret, New York City's cat-themed variety show. And today we have a really exciting guest. She's a kick-ass performer, producer, and host. Her name is Fortune Cookie. She's a cat mom to Koffee and Donut, and I'm really excited for you to learn more about her. Fortune Cookie is a New York-based Asian-American burlesque performer, known for incorporating props and acrobatics into her acts. She's the producer of the quarterly burlesque show Books Burlesque at Caveat in the Lower East Side, and she's performed at events like Hotsy Totsy Burlesque, Asian Burlesque Festival, and Catbaret, most definitely. Her performances are noted for their strength, inspiration for her culture, and relevance in a contemporary context. I'm so excited for you to hear my chat with Fortune Cookie. She does it all. She is not only a performer, she's also a gym owner here in New York City. She owns a gym in Greenpoint called Cosmic Fit Club. You're going to learn more about that. You're going to learn more about Books Burlesque, her quarterly show that she produces that I've been to many times. I've been in the audience. It's a fantastic show. We're going to talk about that. She's going to share her creative process for developing an act. She's going to share also tips for performers, before she goes on stage, what's going through her mind, as well as her journey as a cat mom and all about her cute cats, Koffee and Donut. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Fortune. Thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, so I've known you for quite a while, for a few years, and we're going to dive into your craft and your cats and the way those worlds overlap. But I'd love to touch base on, I was just thinking about this as I was getting ready for this interview. How did we first meet? I think you reached out to me, right, about Catbaret?
Yes, yeah. So I started burlesque at a low point in my life at the suggestion of a friend after a breakup. And this was right before the pandemic. So I took classes at Joe Weldon School of Burlesque, and I loved all the body positivity aspects of it and the community. And so after I, finished creating my new act, and I was a very kind of young, inexperienced burlesque performer, but I, had cats, and I saw that you had posted Cabaret, looking for performers for your next show, and I very excitedly just submitted myself. And I think I emailed you and I asked, can I bring my cats on the show? Because I was like, I'm not a very good performer yet. I'm kind of inexperienced, but I could strip while I have my cats next to me, and that could be really cute. But you were like, I don't know, that sounds like a great idea, but my show doesn't really have live cats because a lot of the venues don't allow it. So I think that's how we first met.
Yes, yeah. And since then, for our listeners, we call them our kitty cats. Fortune and I are friends. But yes, when you first reached out to me, I was so happy someone reached out to me, to be honest, because the show was newer. And I was like, oh my God, someone wants to be part of my show. And then I felt so bad. I was like, oh no, we're not really allowed to have cats at QED. And so, but I don't want to make her feel bad. So then I was so excited and I saw your work and I thought you were so fantastic. And you did a Hello Kitty act at Catbaret per ride. We did it this one venue in Gowanus. It was a one-off show there. And you were fantastic. You had these beautiful blue or rainbow colored silks. So can you tell me a little bit more about what year you started? You said you started burlesque when you took the class, New York School of Burlesque. You were going through a dark time, but I know you also have a background in, I think, circus arts too, or acrobatics. Could you share a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so as a child, actually, I grew up in Chinatown and I did a lot of Chinese dance growing up. And so I incorporate and I like to draw upon some of my cultural background in my burlesque and use props. So, like you had mentioned, I did the Hello Kitty act with Chinese dance ribbons. They were rainbow colored. And then I also did, I think I I did your QED act, and I stepped in because one of your performers canceled last minute, and I did my Shatara act with the Thundercats with a sword, and yeah, so that I do love performing with props because it gives you another sort of thing to interact with and for the audience to see, and because I am like a very physical and athletic person, it also kind of brings another aspect into the art of burlesque. And with my background in acrobatics and yoga, which grew out of, after college, I did my yoga teacher training, and I was always that girl who was doing headstands and handstands in the side of the room while everyone else was trying to meditate. And they were like, yeah, maybe you should try acro yoga or acrobatics. So I did. And yeah, to make a long story short, I have a gym also now located in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, where we teach a lot of circus arts and partner acrobatics. And I definitely do think it kind of adds another layer of complexity and fun and athleticism to my burlesque.
Yes, I'm always so excited when I see your acts. And what I love about burlesque in general is that a performer brings their own take on it, their own spin on it, and whether that's their, whatever it is that makes you special. And for you, I'm always so excited to see whether it's props or your incredible strength and acrobatics. And it's so funny you said that. Like, I'm the person doing restorative bridge with a block, and the person next to me is doing like full wheel or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to rest.
Yeah, totally.
And shout out your gym for all of our listeners here in New York City. Tell us about the name of your gym and more about what they could expect.
Yeah, so it's your non-traditional gym. There's not a single treadmill or weight machine in sight. It was envisioned as a space where people from all walks of life and all ages could come together and explore movement in various disciplines. And that includes, we had workshops with a Star Wars stunt choreographer when we first opened. We did like a lightsaber workshop. We've done black light yoga. We've done, of course, acro yoga and different like animal movements, improv. We had a Momix, which is the dance company that uses a lot of kind of also like circusy type props. They've done and led workshops. So yeah, it's a really fun space, and I like to think of it as a space where people who hate the gym can go and find a really good time, because this is not a typical gym.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really cool community too, which I really like. Very positive.
Yeah, definitely.
And I still need to take a class. I know, but when I signed up, I saw one of your cats welcomes you to the club, right? Tell me about
Yes.
that.
So Donut is our mascot, and of course, this is just another way to bring some personality into the space of the gym. And when I first got her 10 years ago, this was before we opened the gym, I, was really excited to have a pet for the first time. And at the time, I was teaching like 10 classes a week at other gyms across the city, and taking Donut as a little baby cat to like my classes, and she was always such a big hit because she's a ragdoll. And if you know anything about ragdoll cats, they're just bred to be very chill and mellow. So I tried to socialize her in all my classes, my yoga classes, and the students, of course, it was a riot because they loved just having this little snuggly marshmallow in their hands that they could pet and stuff after class. So when I opened my own gym, I told my business partner, Ben, I was like, we totally have to make Donut the mascot and the secretary, and she has to respond to all the emails. So if you sign up for a class, you'll get an email from Donut. You can also call the gym with if you have questions about the gym or the schedule. There's an option in the phone line that says, and if you want to talk to Donut, press 3 or whatever. And people do literally press it, and we have a recording. So yeah, that's the story.
That is so cute. And we're going to dive more all into coffee and donut shortly. But I should mention for our listeners that, yes, you have 2 rag dolls, coffee and donuts. So when you shared, hey, they're very comfortable, they're chill. For our cat-loving listeners, all cats are different. Ragdoll breeds are known to be more chill. So, I want to just shout that out, that I've seen you recently we went on a tour, and a walking tour, and you had your two cats. So that they're very lovely and chill.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think I'm very lucky because I do love to include my cats in as much a part of my world as possible. And I know, there's mixed feelings about, people like taking their cats outside and how it's, very dangerous and it is dangerous, but like you just have to read the personality of your cat and just know what they can and cannot tolerate. And yeah, of course, be careful when taking your cats outside. But my cats have been conditioned at a very early age to be taken everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, and so they really, have inspired your art and the pieces I've seen at Catbaret. But when you're performing in general, I know you've performed at the Miss Coney Island
Hmm.
pageant, and you've performed at Hotsy Totsy Burlesque in your own show, Books and Burlesque,
Hmm.
we're going to dive into. But do you have a certain stage persona? Does it change from act to act?
Yeah, so my stage name is Fortune Cookie, and and it's really funny when I was first starting burlesque, my instructor Joe Weldon would say, to come up with a name, you can think of a flower and a cheese and try to put them together. But I was like, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be like rose cheddar or something. I'm already Fortune Cookie. And Fortune Cookie's persona is she's like a badass Asian superhero or warrior. And that's like how I like to think of myself when on stage. I don't always, have a sword or a spear when I'm doing burlesque, but I always try to channel that like bravery and badassery into my performances.
I love that. It totally shows. You are badass. You inspire me to get stronger. Like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do like a handstand on a chair or whatever that I've seen you do, but
Yeah.
I'm inspired. And so, with your specific cat themed acts, can
Hmm.
you share a little bit about your process in creating those acts or creating any act, your creative process? What's that like for you?
Yeah, I really love the storytelling aspects of burlesque. So, when I'm creating the act, for instance, like my Hello Kitty act or my Shatara act with the Thundercats, I'm always thinking of like sort of a story arc. And, you can't really tell like a super long story in 5 minutes, but you can have like a beginning, middle, and an end. And so I'm always thinking along the lines of what story does this cat want to tell? Like, what is this Hello Kitty doing? And what is she holding? And what is she fighting? Something like that. And then, of course, you pair it with the music, and then you just try to create like an immersive experience that kind of takes the viewer on a journey inside the story of your character. And that's how I guess that's sort of like in a way to think about my creative process. I think a lot of the times it just comes out like I think the more burlesque you do, it becomes more improvisational, and it doesn't have to be like every step is choreographed because you do want to find more organic ways to connect with the audience. And when you're so choreographed, sometimes it just doesn't read as well, or yeah, or it's harder to connect to the audience.
That makes total sense. That resonates with me. And I can really see the storytelling in your acts and also the
Hmm.
time for improvisation. I like that as well. I think the more that I perform, the more I can have like this part is just to breathe and have fun. But knowing this is
Hmm.
when I'm going to take off my shirt or my,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that then we can kind of
Yeah.
explore the lines in between and connect with the audience that way. Um,
Hmm.
and in addition to burlesque, storytelling through burlesque, you're also she does it all. Everybody, you're a stand up comedian too, and you've done stand up at the Catbaret featuring your cats. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've always loved comedy and watching comedy and admired people who are funny and just like naturally funny. And I actually took a comedy class a few years ago because I wanted to become a better host. So, I created my own show, Books and Burlesque, and I was like, comedians have such a gift of like standing up and connecting with the audience by talking to them in a very kind of conversational way and breaking the ice. And they're also just so funny, and humor is a great way to also just disarm people and get them on your side and, get them laughing. And it just feels good. So I started stand-up comedy after I did, burlesque for like a year or so, but as a way really just to become a better host. But then I fell in love with it, and I was like auditioning at Broadway Comedy Club, and I was trying to get all these spots, and then I was like, wait, this is really its own thing, and it's its own separate community. And I didn't like having to bring like three people to every show. There's a whole other process of getting into the comedy world too. And I'm like, wait a minute, Fortune Cookie's not a doesn't want to be like a professional comedian, but she, comedy definitely informs me, and is something that I try to work on too in doing my craft, and in just like becoming more well-rounded as a performer.
I love that you took classes and you got into it. I remember I was saying, oh my God, she's really performing all these places. And you're right. It is like this whole other hustle. I've had friends who are stand-ups.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like at Broadway Comedy Club seeing their show by myself because I'm trying to support Bringer show. I'm the
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. I did a lot of those.
But it's good to do that. I mean, just to get that stage experience, like you said, for hosting. I've kind of been curious about stand-up because I love hosting, and I thought, sometimes I used to do more when my show was at QED, more like I was a divorcee at the time, and I would do dating stories. It was a little different, and so I would experiment with stand-up, but I always thought I'd be nervous to go to like an open mic with all the other stand-ups. So what made you feel more nervous, or do you get nervous before either burlesque or stand-up? How is it different?
Yeah, I do get nervous. I get nervous in different ways, but I try to have like a strategy of just, I think the confidence, like even if you don't feel like super confident, just putting yourself in a confident mindset helps me like get rid of the jitters. And for comedy, for instance, I try to rehearse like as much as possible, and I'm like memorizing everything. And there's pros and cons to that, but I think in the beginning it really helps, so everything down pat. You don't have to think about what joke is coming next. You can really kind of work on the delivery. And for burlesque, I think it's just having more fun and having more of an attitude of fun with it, and not being so hung up on how people will perceive you, or if this is sexy enough or this is good enough or whatever. It's really just, does it feel good to me? Like, am I having a good time? Like, does this feel sexy to me? And I don't know, it might not come across as sexy to someone else, or I might be moving too fast for someone else or whatever, but I just don't worry about that, and I just try to have as much fun as I can up on stage. And I think that is that really helps me kind of overcome some of that, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm ready, for this.
I think that's key, because if you're not having a good time, it's like, especially with burlesque, it's so much more fulfilling for me if I'm having fun and enjoying it and feeling my best and not worrying. We only live once.
Exactly.
Who cares what this random person thinks? Like, I'm living my life. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and speaking of mixing these two, right? You're hosting, you're burlesque. I'm a longtime fan, been to many, and been in one of your Books and Burlesque shows. And as we know, a lot of cat people love to read, love to stay at home with their cats and read books. And you're a fantastic host and performer. So I can tell you're so passionate too about every book. So can you tell me and tell our listeners more about Books and Burlesque? What's it all about?
Yeah, so I love books. I also love burlesque, and the show Books and Burlesque is a way that I see I can kind of combine these two loves by taking 5 published authors who can read excerpts from books that they've newly published with 5 of my favorites, or people I really admire, like burlesque and drag performers who can interpret their books in front of a live audience. And for me, doing the show, it's a way to bring attention to underrepresented voices. So people who are debut authors, younger authors, Black, Brown, LGBTQ, queer authors who don't necessarily have like a huge platform when their books come out, but it's a way for their voices to be heard in a larger space, like on the Lower East Side with a very kind of intelligent, nerdy, savvy audience. And it's also a way for performers to kind of read a new act, maybe be inspired by it, and because art informs other art. And I'm a firm believer in just finding more ways to connect as creative people, and we can mutually inspire one another. We can find more stories that we can incorporate into our burlesque, and just that diversity, I think, is really healthy and helps the whole industry as a whole thrive, especially given this climate of like repression and censorship and like fascism. Like it's a way for us also to rebel against that and to like shine as writers and as performers.
I absolutely, that everything resonates with me from being in your audience. It's such a celebration and a joy, a celebration of these underrepresented voices. And I think there's no better way to have resistance than to have joy. I think that's one of the ways that we can. And I feel like there's a lot of joy in the room. I love learning new authors, and I can tell they're really excited. Like, right? Like, this is really cool. They're like, my book is part of this really interesting show. And you've got kind of two sets of audience. You've got the book lovers and the burlesque lovers, and they really come together to create a community. Is that what you've noticed? Like a lot of returning folks?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely fans of the show that come back. Like, the show is 4 times a year, so each season, it's a way for people to come back and see, oh, what's the new book coming out this winter or fall or summer, and it's also a way for, like I said, new authors to kind of promote and get people interested, and performers can like tease the audience and to be like, look at this book is kind of about this, are you, and and it'll help get, maybe people read only like 5 books a year or something, but they might pick up a book because it looks so sexy and cool on stage. And the books that we select, I love that it's like seasonal, because sometimes we can focus more on like the book that you did was a nonfiction book, but about the history of reality TV. So the books I like to select aren't necessarily about, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a biography of a stripper or something. It can be about a social movement or pop culture phenomenon like reality TV, something that I see will translate well onto the stage. And the authors love it because their pages, pages in a book are, is sort of, you have to read and they're like silent, but like when you can have someone who has read your book then reinterpret it on stage in front of a live audience, that's like so like some of the authors are just, when you look at their faces, they're so in awe and they're so like happy, and that they can see this interpretation, they can see their readers face to face, and they're just really honored by it.
Yes, I can totally tell that when I'm there, that they are just so honored. What I love about it is the creativity. The creativity that you get tasked with as an artist, reading the book and then choosing a part of it. And you emailed us some really great prompts and questions to help the artist know, kind of like to guide us in creating our act. I feel like I almost love that more than just being like, oh, I need to make a new act. What am I going to make it about? But it's so fun to kind of have an assignment like that, and to see everyone else's take. Like if someone else had the book I had, they could have had a totally, I chose this one section that was about the Bachelorette on ABC and kind of how toxic that experience is for the contestants and also the producers, but someone else could have read it and taken away a entirely different thing. So that's what I love, seeing each person's unique perspective on what the book they were given.
Yeah, which like a lot of thought goes into pairing the performer with the author. So, especially for the book about reality TV, I was like, Gemma does a whole show about reality TV, and she watches reality TVs, and she has a strong connection to it. And when I picked Spicy Delight to interpret this book, written by Pakistani American Roses in the Mouth of a Lion, about a queer Desi girl and her coming of age into her own sexuality. I just thought Spicy would be perfect for it because they are also, queer, and they just did an amazing job, like picking like a particular moment where the character is at a museum and looking at Sappho and having this poetry come into her mind as she's discovering that she, her being a lesbian and able to articulate that, and then she's able to create like such a beautiful kind of culturally inspired act from that moment and incorporate her own voice in, she had spoken word poetry in it as well. So I think the pairing of it is also its own challenge, but also reward, because when you have a really good pairing like you and Emily Nussbaum, you get to just see how it's just such a like creative and inspiring thing to put them side by side and to have one also come right after the other.
Yes, that synergy. And you're right. So many folks listening, kitty cats, if you are a producer, you put out a casting. It can be hard curating a show. You have to be thoughtful.
Yeah.
But even more so with this. And I love that because you really keep it authentic with your pairings. You really think about who would be a good representation and connect to the material. And that really shows.
Yeah, for the December show, I'm super excited that this is the first time we're featuring, so it's December 13th at Caveat. We're featuring our first cookbook. So I know most people are like, what? Like, do we even read cookbooks? But this is by Peter Kim, who wrote a cookbook about ramen, the instant ramen kitchen, and he has like stories about ramen. And Calamity Chang is going to be interpreting this book, and I am like over the moon because she is perfect because she actually has a noodle act, and she also did like a whole show cooking with Calamity like during the pandemic. So I think that's just a perfect pairing, and I'm super excited. I mean, obviously I kind of wanted to interpret the book myself, but I was like, no, Calamity's gonna do it. So yeah.
That's really exciting. Yeah. And she's a long time well-known burlesque performer, and she's a producer of the Asian Burlesque Festival, right? Mm-hmm. So this is really exciting that she's part of your show.
Totally. I'm psyched.
And so, yes, tell our listeners the next show, where they can get tickets. You said December 13th. Plug away so that everyone listening can get tickets, and there's live stream too.
Yes, yeah. So it's Saturday, December 13th. It's our holiday show, and it's at Caveat. It's at 9 p.m. from 9 to 11:30. Caveat is on the Lower East Side, and you can get tickets from the Caveat website. So if you go to the Caveat website online, you can click on December 13th or just search Books and Burlesque. And we also have a book club that we're starting to try to keep the community going in between shows for the fans of the show. That one, I think we already have like the 10 members who are going to do the first one, but they also will get a discount. They're able to get discount tickets to the show by becoming part of the book club. But yeah, please come to the next show if you've never been, and I'm super excited about it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love this book club idea. I saw it on Instagram and I commented the other day. You really inspire me because it's all about, like, I'm really all about community, and creating this extra community for folks who love the show is really cool. And I just want to tell our listeners that Fortune really helped me out. I was inspired. I had my show at QED, a venue I loved, but I was ready to grow into Manhattan and, welcome more cat lovers. And I saw Books and Burlesque at Caveat, and we went to a cat cafe, and you gave me kind of like a lot of positive feedback on your experience with Caveat. And so I pitched Catbaret. So thank you for connecting me in that way to this venue.
Of course. I'm so excited your shows have done so well at Caveat. And again, I think it's a perfect setting for something like burlesque. And we both have our own kind of unique spin on burlesque. It's not just like classic burlesque, but it's, it's got a cat theme, or it's got a reality TV theme. There's like a social pop culture like aspect to it, and it's so inclusive and welcoming, and it's very niche as well. Like it kind of like brings in people who have their own like obsessions over certain things. And Caveat's like a nerdy bar. It's like where people can think and drink at the same time. So it's like, yeah, they both go so well together.
That's a great way to say it. People can think and drink at the same time. That's so true. And you are definitely going to be, I haven't announced my 2026 Catbaret shows. I guess I could say it in this podcast episode. I'm not doing Meowie Christmas and Happy Hanukkahs. I'm definitely going to do it next year. I just needed a little break to focus on this podcast, but Fortune Cookie is going to join us in 2026, so you have to stay tuned. And before we move on to learn more about your journey as a cat mom and your cats, is there anything else about your art that you would like our listeners to know?
I'm always, again, like looking for ways where I can kind of get creative when creating, making new acts and try to bring characters who are not often seen on stage and bring them to life. Like, for instance, for my Asian Burlesque Festival act, I reinterpreted Princess Mononoke, and she had a 7-foot tall spear, and she was just killing it on stage, and her face was painted, and she had like teeth hanging around her neck. So I don't know, just trying to bring more of that badassery on stage, and also to bring people together to celebrate strong women is like a perennial theme and goal of mine.
I think we need that. I'm here for it. Thank you. All right, now we're going to dive into the cat portion. I think you mentioned a little bit, but can you remind me, when did you become a cat mom? Who did you get first? Tell us about your cats, their names, how they came into your life.
Okay, well, I don't have children, so my cats are like my children. And 10 years ago, I really wanted my first cat. I didn't grow up with cats, but I've always wanted cats. And so I was like, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I did go shopping for my cats, and I
No
found
judgment,
a breed.
no judgment.
Yeah, yeah. One of my best girlfriends, actually, she had ragdolls and very positive experiences with them. I met them. I fell in love with ragdolls. She also had Maine Coons. So the first cat I got was Donut, and she was from a breeder in Pennsylvania, actually right outside of Pittsburgh. And, I read up on this breeder, and she was very reputable and had been breeding since like 2008 and had really good reviews. My boyfriend at the time was like, wait, we're driving 7 hours to pick up a cat. And I was like, it's not 7 hours. It's like really close to New York. But it was like a really long trip. But Donut was a Christmas present like 10 years ago for me. And she was my first cat. After opening the gym in 2017, I was not home a lot, so I felt like I needed to get another friend for Donut. And Donut's like, her personality is like a princess. She's very like quiet and chill, but I always thought she was bored. But I don't know, like I would bring her to my gym, and like take her to the gym and pass her around like I mentioned earlier. And my ex-boyfriend was like, Joy, I don't know if she likes that, but maybe you should get another cat for her so she can interact more. So I decided to get a sister for her, and I wanted to get a ragdoll because I heard that ragdolls get along with other ragdolls. And so I went to another breeder, this one close to Binghamton. This time I drove myself to pick up my cat, but it's a brown cat. Like she's brown, and her name is Koffee. And she's super cute, and they get along really well, even though Coffee's personality is more rambunctious and she's more active and playful. So she's always like chasing Donut, or when she was a baby kitten, she would jump onto the fridge and like be jumping like 3 feet in the air. She has really good jumps. So I was thinking of training her to jump through hula hoops, but she doesn't really do that. She just would rather eat her cat snacks. But she will do something really cute and stand on her hind legs like a little bear when she like boxes with Donuts. So they'll like box on the windowsill, and they're so cute. And I have like videos of them boxing, cat boxing.
Yeah. They're so cute. You guys have to follow. You all have to follow Fortune Cookie Burlesque on Instagram and sometimes see her cats. They are adorable. So Donut is the princess. Coffee is the more rambunctious one. When they first met, did it take some time for them to get along, or did they just immediately coexist well?
Yeah, so they're 3 years apart. So I think Donut was 3 years old when I got Coffee, and she started like licking Coffee like Coffee was a little baby, like Coffee was her baby or something within like 4 or 5 days. It actually didn't take very long at all. Yeah, I'm so glad that worked out.
Yeah, so grateful because you never know. All cats are different, and it's nice that they get along with
Yeah.
each other. And you were doing your research anyway to be mindful. You wanted them to get along. Do you
Hmm.
have any special daily routines or rituals with your cats?
I try to play with them as much as possible. Definitely after work, I play with them a lot. With Donut, I brush her hair every other day, and I also brush her teeth with my index finger.
Oh, so cute.
And with Coffee, we have this ritual of like she loves the wand toys, like the feather wand toys, and this little mouse toy. I exercise her a lot. She loves running from one end of the apartment to the other while chasing the wand toys, and while I throw like little catnip toys. We have this ritual. She'll like chase them. She won't bring them back to me, but she will chase it and then just like stop. Yeah.
You're such a good cat mom. You give them
Oh,
so much
thanks.
enrichment.
I
Yeah.
try
I'm
to.
so jealous that you can brush their teeth. Like my cats, oh gosh, I think one cat would bite my hand off. So, because they need, people don't know, like you do have to, it's recommended to brush your cat's teeth because they have to have a dental procedure every so often and go under anesthesia and have teeth pulled if and you
Right.
can avoid that by brushing. So that's really great that you can do that.
Yeah, I started Donut Young with that. Coffee, I don't, she doesn't like it. So I give her, she actually eats, so Coffee has an appetite that she'll eat anything, which is amazing because Donut's more picky, but she'll eat all the little dental treats I give her, like the greenies. And so her teeth, when I took her to the vet, she's 7 now, but the vet was like, she has the teeth of a 2-year old. So because of all just dental treats, like I don't brush her teeth because she doesn't like it. I bet I could, but I don't know. It's a lot of work too to try to get them to sit down and brush their teeth.
Yes, that's hard. Well, that's great to hear because it is so
Yeah,
stressful when our babies have to go under anesthesia and have, so
I
that's a
know.
big win. Yeah, good job,
Hmm.
cat mom.
Thanks.
Now, you've shared a lot of ways that you incorporate your cats or into your creative life. Even trying to get one to jump through hoops, that's so cute, and with your gym. But is there anything that we hadn't touched on that your cats, have inspired or been involved with your performances or creative work?
I think, like I said, I just try to incorporate or include my cats as much as possible in my world. So if I am doing burlesque, obviously they can't be incorporated in my act yet, but I do have fantasies of them. One day I'll have a circus trainer act where I'll have a little whip, like a little cat whip, and they'll be in little lion costumes and running around the stage. But but I try to, when I'm rehearsing, and they have the full reign of the house. They can go wherever in the house. So when I'm rehearsing in the living room, Coffee will like often burrow and run into my costumes. And I was painting a pair of underwear with the inmate identification numbers. I was creating an act where I incite a riot because I was interpreting a book from this woman who wrote a memoir about her experience in jail, in prison. So I was like painting these black numbers onto a pair of panties, and Coffee literally walked into the paint and she got black ink all over her little paws, and I had to stop everything I was doing and like wash her paws for like an hour. But we got all the ink out. That was really funny though. She literally gets into everything and wants to be a part of it all.
Yeah, that's just how it is when you're working on a very intricate costume. And then,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's so
Oh
funny.
goodness. Well, we have learned so much about your art. You have so much going on. But before we wrap, we want to hear, what is one piece of advice or favorite tip for our cat loving creatives?
I think my one tip is, and this almost sounds like, not really a tip, but just to try to spend as much quality time with your cats as possible because, they're, a lot of people say, they're low maintenance and they just do their own thing. They're very independent, but I feel like the more love you can shower on them, the more you can like pick them up and like smush their faces and snuggle them. Like It just feels so good, and I'm sure it helps prolong the life of your cat. So I'm a firm believer in just spending as much quality time with your cat as possible and just playing with them, and just cherish every moment and bring them into your world as much as possible.
Yes, that's such good advice. Some days we're so busy and we're running out the door and like we forget. I remind myself every day. I'm grateful. Like every day I'm like, I'm so grateful they're in good health, because as our cats get older, we really know that unfortunately they're not going to live forever. So sorry, everybody. But so we want to cherish every day. Now, for everyone who's listening and they want to follow you on Instagram, or website, whatever, what is the best way that you want folks to connect with you after they listen to this episode?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Fortune Cookie Burlesque. You can also feel free to email me if you're looking for performers, and you can email me at fortunecookie.burlesque@gmail.com. And yeah, hope to see you out there in the audience, and maybe in this New York City subways with your cats, and if we might run into each other. I take my cats in their cat stroller sometimes to Central Park, and I also like to go down to Chinatown because I have a sister who lives down there. So if anyone lives down there and wants to connect and meet my cats in person, also hit me up.
I love that. What a fun community. Oh, and I wanted to tell you one more thing. I want to do like a cat ladies. I think I told you at the Coney Island Mermaid Parade. Like mermaids, yeah. Or it could be all people, not just ladies, but with the theme as a community thing to do for Catbaret. So maybe, who knows, we'll see folks there too.
I would love to.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Tails and Tassels. So if you have any questions, comments, or just want to say meow, feel free to send us an email at tailsandtasselspod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Also, join our community on Instagram at Tails and Tassels Pod for more updates and behind-the-scenes fun. See you next time, kitty cats.